coronavirus. We pray that it be dissolved with healing, with healing, with healing. Your cervix, your penis, your vagina, your buttocks, your colon. Go wash your hands.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back.
Does anybody else want to stay?
Let's ride!
Good evening, everybody. I hope many of you are wearing your full-on ET astronaut suits tonight. And wherever you are, the windows are closed, especially if you're anywhere near the Northeast or the Midwest. I mean, I didn't expect this today. I really didn't expect this today. It's a choker, but then again, why shouldn't I? It's the third year in a row. We'll get to that in a second. We have a great guest coming back tonight. We haven't spoken to him since earlier on this year. It is Bryan from Demon Erasers, and we're just going to be talking about demonology tonight. We've gotten his background before. We've had a couple of really great runs together, but we've never really talked about the basics of demonology and applying it to what we're watching right now, and perhaps even getting around to which spirit in particular is guiding America at this point more than any other. I'm sure you guys have some suggestions, but Bryan will be here in a few minutes. So in the meantime, we will do some other work. Thank you so much for being here. It's July 15th. We are smack dab in the middle of this month. It is 2026, and drop your city, drop your state, drop your country, whatever the hell it is, into the chat room. Show everyone how far the reach is. This is a roll call. Where are you representing? That'll help get the chat room nice and lively, nice and awake, fluff the algorithm, let the internet know and the platforms know that we got a bunch of alive and kicking human beings that are watching. Like, subscribe, make sure that your notifications are on, and we'll be on our way. Other than that, I mean, I don't know what to say about this right now. It's a third annual Canadian Wildfire Pink Orange Sun Festival here in New York, as I said on Twitter. Complete with itchy eyes and burning throat, what was once an odd, smoky divergence from the norm is now something we can mark on our calendars every year like it's Kwanzaa. And that's just the way. And listen, everybody is chiming in on this one. I'm getting friends of the show that are getting in touch with me from over here, Bois Blanc out there, Northwest Michigan. You can actually smell it like you're at a bonfire. It is wafting by me over here in Westchester, New York, as if, like I said out there earlier on the afternoon, as if your next door neighbor is grilling something and the burgers and steaks they have on the grill has caused a small grease fire. And it's just, you know how you can, one grill can smoke up a neighborhood pretty good. That's what it feels like. And the fact that it's coming from Ontario is absolutely insane. I'm getting this from people who are in Pennsylvania and all over New York, of course, and up into New England. Friends of the show that are in Maine and Massachusetts and, of course, Ohio, Minnesota. I mean, we are all connected, guys and gals. We're connected by this types of stuff lately. You know? On more than a few occasions in the last few years, we have been connected not only by these types of wildfire events, which are completely I'm sure that there are dry seasons in California and Canada, and there always have been, and there have been wildfires, and that's just the way it is. But to tell me that this is in any way, shape, or form normal for the rest of us to be feeling it like this, perhaps some of you that are closer to the Minnesota, Michigan area, I can see that. But this is not in all my, 38 years prior to the last 3 years. Nah. They don't give me that climate change bullshit either. I think that this is some kind of a bio attack. I think that it's being lit in Canada and dispersed, whatever the hell it is. But there's an accelerant in it all. Look at the hellish. This looks like a scene from Mordor over here. Our good friend Rosie Memos put this out there. A fire in Ontario looks pretty bad. Yeah, it looks like hell. Looks like hell. Here's a map. Here's the map of how it's been spreading. Look there. There you go. Minnesota and Michigan, Wisconsin, New York, right down through Pennsylvania and Ohio, and of course Boston and Connecticut and everything else. It's crazy, man. It really is crazy. It's 95 degrees. We're getting bio-attacked from Canada, and everyone is washing their lettuce with Listerine because of the diarrhea parasite that's going on around here. I hope all of your asses are feeling okay. Just please. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe for the I know Jay Gulinello is going to hate me for saying this, but maybe for the next couple of weeks we just eat Oreos. How about that? We can survive that, can't we? I just gave somebody, Mark Swan was like, "Oh, yes." Somewhere out there, Mark Swan says, "Don't tempt me, Frank. I just took off 150 pounds. I'll put it right back on in 2 weeks." So there's that. On another front, we have this vampire from over here in New York who's breathing just fine because he doesn't have lungs. He's some other kind of oxygen delivery. Or maybe he doesn't even need oxygen at this point. That is Chuck Schumer. And he had a little something to say about Iran or the NDAA or so. I have something to say about that as well. But this is funny because they say, and this is from the New York Post, and also other friends of ours who are watching this happen in the floor of the Senate said that Chuck Schumer ripped a big fart. Tell me if you can hear it. I don't know.
Now on Iran and the NDAA.
Oh, wait a second.
People need to know.
Wait, is that real? Oh, that.
Now on Iran and the NDAA.
Oh, yeah.
The American people need to know, of course, how and why this chaos is spreading through their streets, and we need a complete investigation that's independent. Now on Iran and the NDAA.
Yeah, okay. You know what? Listen, I will say this. It's funny. It's funny. It's something to laugh at. A little bit of a, 5-minute pit stop, less than that. But I would rather listen to this guy rip farts all day than ever have to listen to that sticky cotton mouth of his ever again. I want to fucking vomit every time he's up there droning on and on and on. Between his cotton mouth and the tediously slow, nasally voice, I really don't know what's worse. I don't know what's worse. Freak. Can you imagine being a child in his family and have him reading you a book? Berenstain Bears or something like that? Ugh. Papa Bear. Boom. Anyway, so we're talking about fire. We're also talking about the time. And we're going to bring on a guy in just a couple of seconds who knows what time of day it is, no doubt about it. The House has passed legislation to make daylight saving time permanent nationwide, ending the twice-a-year clock changes by a 308 to 117 vote. Backed by President Trump, the bill now heads to the Senate. If approved and signed into law, Americans would no longer have to change their clocks. Now, Tom Cotton in the Senate said he's going to block this. If he has anything to say about it, he is going to stop this from reaching President Trump's desk. But my question to you is, what would you choose? And I have this up in the chat poll right now on YouTube. So no matter where you're watching live, get over to the YouTube real quick, like the stream, and vote in that chat poll. Okay? Daylight savings time or standard time? If you had to choose one, you can't back out. If you had to choose one, what would you choose and why? And I'll break down all the times and what the difference will be in the second half. I'd like to hear what you guys think. And of course, we will review the poll. So that happened. That happened today as well. We got a whole bunch of shit, and Chuck Schumer shit his pants, probably taking over for Jerry Nadler, who's still just roly-polying it around. That's just the way it is over there in the United States Congress. So that's what we're dealing with. So if it wasn't for one thing or another, we'd be having a nice day, a nice hot day. That's for sure. Okay, well, like I said before, one guy who certainly knows what time of day it is, he also knows a little bit about a lot of other stuff there too, is Bryan of Demon Erasers. DemonErasers.com, where he discusses demonic influences, spiritual warfare, Nephilim, generational curses. We got a lot of that going on right now. I was saying the other day, I wish we could have generational prison sentences for some people, especially political dynasties in this country, just like they do in North Korea, and biblical truths about angels and demons and the unseen roles that they may or may not play in our day-to-day lives, and perhaps even in the news cycle, which is what we'll talk about a little bit tonight. Last time he was on, he blew my mind with the hidden diabolical truths about the cigarette manufacturing and packaging industry. And here he is again. Bryan, welcome back to the show.
Bro, thanks for having me back on. Excited to talk about some more crazy stuff and hopefully not get too many tomatoes thrown at you.
Oh, dude, bring on the tomatoes. That was a wonderful. Every time you've been on, we've had a blast. So please, how's your year been so far? It's been a pretty eventful summer, huh?
I'm trying to get my camera right. Yeah, okay, yeah, it's been great. It's been great. There's been all kinds of interesting stuff. I mean, I don't hold my life to whatever's going on in the world, but I do my thing, bro. I do my thing, and I've been getting put everywhere and going on podcasts and traveling around, and it's been fun.
That's fun. That's a good thing. I think where somebody like you and even to a large degree myself over the years, where it's getting a little bit more fun and a little bit more opportunity for us to cover what's going on in the world in our own little way, is that finally, I think a lot of normies out there have run out of geopolitical and surface level reasons or explanations for what's happening. And so naturally they're going to the unseen. They're going to the Indiana Jones kind of route of things. Tell me what I'm not seeing. So I think that's why it's just so fun for me to check in on you on Instagram from time to time, and always good to have you back. Hey, speaking of cigarettes, a friend sent this to me whose son just got back from Greece. And I didn't know that cigarette packages throughout Europe.
They're disgusting.
Yeah, but now here's what I wanted to ask you about, because it's interesting here. You were telling me just about the naked cigarette packages of just getting people out there buying them, whatever. But in Europe, they are completely, every box has a picture of a sick person or a dead person or an amputated limb or something, like a trach hole, all these horrific things. And it's all in an effort to get people to traumatize and to stop smoking, which I would have to imagine you think is a good thing. So what say you, good or bad? What the hell's the play here?
Bro, you said it yourself, traumatized, bro. That's the word. And, that's what it's for. And it's actually a form of witchcraft. And it's completely evil that they're doing that. That is it's kind of it seems backwards, but when you understand how witchcraft works, it makes total sense. So like, people don't understand that like witchcraft isn't just what you could say is like, oh, I put a spell on you. It's activated by faith. So there's an interview of a woman that was like 102, I think she was, or 101 or something, and she smoked cigarettes her whole life. Never had lung cancer, never once died of it, no issues, whatever. And she had been in that smoking cigarettes her whole life, didn't get sick. And you got to ask yourself, like, how is this woman living to be this old smoking cigarettes, and everybody else is dying at like 50, like from lung cancers, and 40 and whatever, and it's like, what's the difference? Like, the difference is really it comes down to like authority and faith. And so the reason why they put those ugly curses on that cigarette pack is because they want you to believe it. They want you to believe the evilness of it, because this woman smoking cigarettes her whole life, God had grace on her for whatever reason. God had grace, and his mercy was sufficient for her to the point where she just didn't realize that it was a problem. She grew up with it and didn't know. Somehow she was able to get by. But the thing is, she was never warned in her spirit. You see, you are warned in your spirit. And if you're warned in your spirit, whether you realize it in your head or not, you neglect it. That's when the curse befalls you a lot of times. That's when the thing affects you a lot of times, because God has grace for those that don't know. But when you know better and you do it anyways, you're out. Your grace is out. And so that's why they put that curse on that cigarette pack, to inform you so that you know this is going to curse you and kill you. So when you smoke that cigarette, because in Europe, the culture didn't take on to the taboo nature of what they wanted you to accept. So they had to start doing something else to make it even more taboo and evil. So that way you knew for sure that it's bad. See, the problem with witchcraft is demons get a hold of you when you're conflicted. In fact, there's a text in, I forget, it's in the Apocrypha text, but it basically says that when a man stays in conflict too long, the Spirit of God will like leave him. And it kind of alludes to this idea that like when you are conflicted in your heart, I forget the exact word. I think it's distress, conflict. It's something like this. But when you understand what it's referencing, it's basically meaning like when you are sitting there doubting yourself and wondering and like not feeling in connection or communion or community with the Lord for too long, like God's Spirit is not going to hang around you. And so like smoking cigarettes, yes, that's a demonic offering. You're burning an offering to a demon. Yes, absolutely. But more importantly, you're also creating conflict in yourself. You are creating, affecting your own mental awareness of peace. Okay. Because when you think of Jesus, do you think Jesus would smoke cigarettes?
No, I don't.
No.
It's not. No, it's not in my head.
No, you would not think that. So how are you going to see yourself as Jesus when you smoke cigarettes? How are you going to embody the presence of the Lord and be his hands and feet when you are smoking cigarettes? Do you understand what I mean? Like when you are burning offerings unto demons, that's not something that you will be able. So you're cheapening yourself and you don't realize it, but it's a curse upon yourself because it stops you from being God's hands and feet, A, and B, it also is bringing the curse into you because every time you do it and you know you're not supposed to, you're like, I'm smoking the cigarette. I know I'm not supposed to do this. And you do it anyways. There is a weakening of your faith shield and your faith shield gets deteriorated. And the more and more you do it, the more and more your faith is less active in your life and you lose your faith ability. That's what it's doing to you. It's destroying your faith. And by putting that curse on those packets, for those that don't know, they're telling you we're sacrificing you, we're killing you. It's very clear in other countries with the death image. It's letting people know for sure you are being cursed.
Well, let me ask you this.
Sense?
Yeah, it does, and I know what you're getting. I understand your train of thought there, but what about somebody who self grows? They grow tobacco. They cultivate their own. They know that whether these mass produced things have a lot of additives in it, and of course may come from companies that are actually producing it in a way where it has already been ritualistically produced or cursed or some way like that. What if you are just, you're cultivating your own crops from the backyard and you're not offering it up to a demon. You're just enjoying God's creation.
I don't know. I mean, like that's between you and the Lord. I mean, like if you don't feel convicted, then maybe that's okay for you. I don't know. I'm not the judge. I mean, your heart is the judge, so like God said, he will write his laws upon your heart and he'll put them in your mind. I will be my God. I will be your God and you will be my people. The Bible says. And so he says he'll write them on. That's the new law that you're held to, the new standard. And so it's in you. So like, if you think it's fine, maybe it's fine for you. I don't know. Like maybe that's going to be between God judging you. You see what I'm saying? Like God,
yeah.
Like God's not going to like condemn those that don't know. So like, I don't know, but if you feel an inkling in your heart that like, maybe I shouldn't be doing this and you do it anyways, that's your problem. That's where you do it. That's where you mess up. It's when you know in your heart, I'm not supposed to do this, yet you do it anyways, because that creates the conflict within you that you're not in peace or unity within your soul. And then the Lord isn't going to use you as a worthy vessel because you're living in conflict. You're living in conflict within you. And you can't possibly hear clearly the voice of the Lord when you are constantly doubting yourself and you're doubting your place and you're thinking terrible of yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like you have to be in a spot where you know that you're good where you're at and you're doing as best as you can. And so like cigarettes is a trick to mentally like disable people activating their spiritual awareness. That's what it is. It's a demonic curse, an offering, but it's also a trick. and it's also got poison in it to kill you. But the Lord will protect you if you're smoking cigarettes and you don't know better. But I mean, at this point, you probably know better.
So
you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, ignorance is bliss
So-
when it comes to smoking cigarettes.
yeah, yeah. Especially if you heard the last podcast, you definitely know better now.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry. I apologize for telling you.
No, that was awesome. In fact, I think we made a clip about that. I should re-upload it. That's the other thing I realize is that every couple of months, if you have a really good clip, you should just re-upload it because chances are only 10% of people saw it. But let me ask you just from a demonology 101 standpoint, because we never actually even broached this topic yet. How do you begin? We know your origin stories, but how do you begin the process? How did you begin the process of profiling certain spirits and their function, especially when it comes to, for example, I was talking to Leo Zagami weeks ago, and he brought up a grimoire that the Vatican apparently has. And I started thinking about this, ancient books of spells and Necronomicons and all this other stuff. And I was thinking to myself, what in the pre-internet world, maybe the ancient world, was the most complete collection of like demonology encyclopedic information? What was that?
Well, I mean, you mentioned the Necronomicon, but honestly, like it's not important. You don't need this stuff. All of it's false. All of it's manipulation. All of it's evil. This is the thing. It's, I've read a lot of demonic stuff, and honestly, like any Christian, we shouldn't be reading it. You shouldn't be focusing on it. Like, people want to know, like, what can I do as a Christian to serve the Lord? Like, it's very simple. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and soul and mind. Love your neighbor as yourself. Like, treat others with love. Like, we don't need to be focusing on like these things. And when we do put a bunch of focus on the demonic, we give it power. Okay. So like, demons don't have power unless they circumvent it from our authority. Jesus says all authority on heaven and on earth has been given unto us. Therefore now go. He gave the authority to you. Okay. He says what you loose on earth will be loose in heaven. What you bind on earth will be bound in heaven. And like, people take that verse and they're like, they think it means, oh, we can bind demons and they'll bind them in the heavens. Like, no, that's not what that means at all. What it means is very clear. It's like, you got to have the understanding that it's like what you bind on earth will be bound in heaven. What you loose means literally what you allow in your life will be allowed. Okay, because you've allowed it. That's kind of what that verse really means. And so like the binding and loosing of things. So it's like the demons want to trick us into loosing ourselves into giving demons power. But the reality is they don't have power, and they never had power. The only power they get is from the power that they circumvent from our foolishness believing in them. So all of those grimoire books, all of these books of the cultic are witchcraft. They're bad. All of them are bad. I mean, the word is grimoire. It means grammar. It means witchcraft. Grim. That's the root word for witchcraft. So they're telling you it's a grimoire. You probably shouldn't read it, because just by reading it and believing what is in it, you activate the faith that gives the demon that power to conflict or cause that thing to happen in your life. Okay, like, this is how faith works. Faith is not. There is no. That's why it's like, this is why atheist people don't have supernatural experiences. A lot of people that are atheistic, they're like, they just don't even believe remotely in the supernatural. Yeah, why? Because they don't have that aspect of faith to activate it, and they never will. Like, if they want to be atheistic in their perspective, they'll probably never have a supernatural experience in their life. And then you get people that are schizophrenic that can tell you stories about stuff floating off the ground around them. Okay. And then they can tell you stuff that I've seen them come up off the ground. Okay. Like, I've seen some crazy stuff, but at this point, like, dude, there is a drastic level of supernatural and non-supernatural within all of humanity, but it comes down to our faith, because Jesus gave us the authority over these things. But when we have faith in the wicked, it creates wicked. That's why it's like, it says it is shameful to talk about the things done in darkness. The Bible says it is shameful to talk about these things done in darkness. So it's like the grimoires and all this books of magic and witchcraft and occultic stuff. It is so, like, it's not worth reading. It's not worth looking into. I don't care about the demon. Like, I don't care about what demon of old age. I don't care about some demon of, cancer or what. Like, none of these demons matter to me anymore. Like, it doesn't, like, I looked into it and I know it, and now I've just chosen to forget it, because there's no benefit in understanding it, because it's all worthless. Jesus said, all authority on heaven and on earth has been given unto you. Now go. Okay. And then when the 72 went out, they came back and they said, Lord, Lord, even the demons obey us. And he said, don't be praised that the demons obey you. Be happy that your name is written in the book of life, is what he said, right? So who cares that the demons obey me? Who cares that they obey you? Like their demons are pathetic. They're weak. They're worthless. Okay. They are worthless. They're nothing. Okay. And this is what we have to understand with the authority of Christ, right? But like people want to think that there's something. And when you think that there's something, it builds up this narrative that gives them power. It gives them authority. It gives them an ability to affect your life. And that's what's happened to a lot of people. Like I read occult books when I was a kid and never did anything to me. But like other people, my ex-girlfriend, when she read them, she got possessed. Bro, she got literally demons affecting her life reading this kind of stuff. So it's like, you know, you cannot give power to this. So
Well,
don't
Bryan,
ever read that stuff.
Well, let me ask you this. The and I want to bring something else up there too, but no faith. I understand that, you know, giving something fuel, understand, and that's a choice that could be made there. Why give something fuel? But when we look at what's going on in the country right now and all over the world, we see a lot of really sick spiritual expressions that are coming through people who obviously have been rooked or had faith burned out of them. But at the same time, they have to be spiritually fertile in some way to become a vessel for whatever behavior is going on there. So how do the people we see in the streets become so consumed with this almost like, I don't know, it's a very, very chaotic and not of this, where you can see the almost like they're on autopilot and something else is driving them. You would expect them being atheistic and very, very secular to the point of just falling apart, that they would be a little bit more, I don't know, cold about it all. But it seems like they are actually being driven by something unseen. How could that be possible if they're not practicing a faith or claim to have some at all?
Actually, I've talked to a lot of schizophrenics and a lot of homeless people. They are not faithless. In fact, they're the most God-seeking people you'll find. In fact,
Well, I'm not just talking about the homeless or I'm talking about just, I don't know, school high school kids that go out, you know, activist types.
Sure. So okay, so there's two things going on here, right? So if let's talk about the extreme version, right? When we talk about homeless people. So like homeless people are the most deprived individuals, and schizophrenic people, okay? The schizophrenic people all believe in God. Like they believe in demons, like almost all of them. Very rarely do I come across schizophrenics that don't. Like maybe 1 out of every 10 might say, I don't know what to think. But but like they almost always believe in God. And their perspective, they believe in the demons even. They even know that it's demons sometimes, okay? So schizophrenic stuff, they believe in this stuff. And their faith gives a lot of this stuff permission to have access over them, right? And then we have to look at the situations like the blue-haired girls that are like, you know, activist crazies that think that they're they-thems, okay? Now, they also don't believe in biblical text, right? They don't believe in God. They don't have a perspective of the Lord. They're very atheistic in a lot of ways, right? And they're just like debaucherous. But those individuals, they're because they're not in that reality. This is the product of our culture. Like we have allowed this to happen, and it's created this dynamic of toxic, poisonous people, right? So our culture, we have been given these reins by the Holy Spirit, by God, by Jesus, gave us this authority, and we've allowed this authority to persist and created this sort of toxic culture. Now, this is the culture of our society. So this is just the default culture of our society, you know? And so what's happening now is that, yeah, demons are possessing these individuals. That's why they call themselves they-thems. These are demons getting in control of these, but the people don't realize it. And they're not in, like, you know, because the spiritual world exists, right? So like the spiritual world is still affecting things, whether you believe in it or not. Okay. But there is an aspect of them that have usually denounced God. Like a lot of these atheistic people, like they've had a perspective of God and then they chose not God. They've been raised in church and they had denounced God. And so then it says the Lord turns you over to a debased mind, right? So if you continue in your acts of wanting and you'd ignore it, you get turned over to the debased mind. So a lot of these blue-haired girls, like, bro, they know that what they're doing is wicked. They know that it's wrong. In their heart, they've been warned by the Holy Spirit. They were usually raised in a church a lot of times, And they're being told, no, this is, that's why there's a third generation coming up right now that is the children of these children, right? And the children of these children are actually like turning to the Bible. Have you noticed that?
Absolutely.
Like and it's because they're coming out of seeing like their blue-haired parents, and they're just like, what is this? Something's not right, right? And so then they're actually turning to discovering things on their own, whereas their parents are being forced into this. And so it's like there is a spiritual world that does affect things, right? But telling the blue-haired girl that there is a demon of Pan that exists ain't gonna help her. She's probably gonna just go, oh yeah, I'm gonna get Pan tattooed on me. You know what I mean? Like she's gonna give in to that desire more.
It's that Jezebel spirit.
Yeah, well, exactly. But like, that's the thing. She's going to give in to that more. She's going to be like, oh yeah, you think so? Okay. And get more controlled by the thing. So by you mentioning it to her, it's going to activate more of that demonic influence, right? So the demonic influence is already there, but it's like when you start to give it authority by speaking about it, they're either going to embrace it. Maybe they'll wake up to it and be like, really, is it demons? But I don't know. I mean, like, there's not a whole lot of blue-haired chicks that I think find the content about demons and then like stop being, demonized. Usually they kind of go deeper, I think.
Well, they're
already there.
And I understand just from your initial statements about, hey, listen, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter the profile of a demon, whether we're talking, about one or the other, and what their very limited programming is, what they can do, what they can't, and all that other shit. I understand your initial statement. And I keep that in mind. But when it comes to analyzing the culture, like you were just saying, do you believe, or do you have any thoughts on whether or not there are particular spirits that become more culturally active during certain periods of history? Meaning, do spirits have seasons, like saints have feast days or something like that? Does a demon, for instance, need to be beckoned, or when the ground is fertile, like right now, with all these people just giving themselves over rebelliously, giving themselves over, smoking the ultimate cigarette? What demons do you believe there's any that really take advantage of that season more than others?
Absolutely. And demons are like people. Okay, so don't think of demon as like oh, here's a demon of this, there's a demon of that. Demons are like people, bro. They're like you and me. They just have an invisible being. So demons have demons have ground to take an advantage of a situation when people are in already a state of debaucherousness. Okay. There's the verse that says like, if you hurt one of my little ones, greater for a millstone to be tied around your neck and be cast into the sea. Like, why is that a verse? Why did God say this? You know what I mean? Like, you got to understand the reason why that exists, and that punishment exists for those that are against God's children, is because if you manipulate a child's mind, you're going to break that child's sensibility to recognize right and wrong. And so you're breaking their connection to the Holy Spirit, what is right and what is good, what is true, right? You're destroying their ability to recognize the things of the heart that are wicked, okay? And so, but you got to think, like, our culture pushes this kind of stuff all the time because they want that conflict in us to be so destroyed that we don't recognize God's Spirit talking to us. And so that's what ultimately a lot of this is going to. And that's what, the culture is definitely just made fertile ground for demons to fester. But a lot of it still comes down to your choice, like you're choosing whether you realize it or not. Like you were given that choice to do it. And it's like that choice can get fuzzied and muddied, but you still know in your heart whether something's good or bad. Like, it's like you just start leaning into the bad stuff, and then the demon starts, coming in union with you. It's only then when the blue-haired people try to pull away that they really recognize that it's not them in control the whole time. It's been something else that's been, attaching to them in their godless state, And so a lot of blue-haired people have crazy testimonies, by the way, because they start coming out of it and they realize there is something demonic attached to them this whole time. But I mean, how the demon got there in the first place is like because they were ignoring the nudging of the Holy Spirit. I mean, there's people in other countries that aren't like in island countries and stuff that are like not necessarily Christian associated, but they are still good people. So, and they're not getting totally demonized. Why aren't they getting totally demonized like the blue-haired people? Like, What's the difference? It's like the difference is it comes down to your choice. Like, you know what's right and wrong. A child knows what's right and wrong when he's a kid, whether you tell him or not. Like, your kid sees somebody steal, he's gonna go, Daddy, Daddy, they stole something that's bad. They're gonna know that. Like, they know it innately in their heart because Holy Spirit's already in the children. He's already with us. Like, that's what Jeremiah 31:31-34 says. It says, I will be their God and they will be my people. No longer will they tell their neighbor, you must know the Lord, for they will all know me, from the least of them to the greatest, declares the Lord, for I will forgive their wickedness and remember their sins no more. So, like, the Holy Spirit's already in the people giving us guidance, but we neglect it. And then that's when we get turned over to a debased mind. And that's why you need to be born again. This is what it means to be born again. Like, literally is to go back to that state of innocence when you recognize right and wrong. Go back to the state when you were innocent enough to be like, yo, hey, this is bad. You know, I shouldn't be doing this. Like, that's what we need to do, is go back to that state. Does that make sense?
It absolutely does. And you know, I think about you just brought up stealing, and that the kind of like having that in your gut as a child, that's bad, that's wrong, even before you know your 10 commandments. But you know, now we've gotten to the place where, and I'm not broad stroking because this country is largely still made up of people who know right from wrong, and we are just dealing with a very, very loud minority of dangerous people, to be honest. But they've gone to the point where they've been groomed into thinking that, oh, well, it's fine to steal because that business has insurance. And then, of course, since the 1970s, there is that abortion culture that has been stoked by, several, court decisions and everything else like that. And that's why people say that, over the course of a couple of generations, when things like that really take control of the culture, you will have the expression of very particular spirits like Baal or something like them that will start becoming the predominant spirit that guides a nation further into calamity that has been brewing for some time. That's why I was asking if you've identified the earmarks of any spirits in particular.
Yeah, so, well, I'll tell you right now that Western culture is ran by Satan. Western culture is the Baal culture, but people don't notice that. I mean, but it is, that's the battle we're fighting. That's the whole thing with Palestine right now. Like, it's not a battle against Muslims. It's not a battle against, Christians and Muslims or Jews and Muslims. That's not what's going on. It's a battle against demonic territory control over the culture, because the Muslim people, a lot of them have like ethics that they hold to and a standard that they hold to, where they don't watch Western media. They don't listen to Western. In fact, it's illegal in certain countries, in Muslim countries, to listen to like Taylor Swift. Like, it's crazy. But the
good for them, by the way. Good for them.
I know, it's great for them. It's like great idea. They should make it that way. But it's funny because it's like, dude, that's like, they know that Western media is occultic and witchcraft. They know that, and so they're trying to fight that. They're trying to not accept it into the culture. And so if that's why the Arab nations, Israel's not really messing with the Arab nations as hard either, because they've already kind of accepted Westernization in a lot of ways. United Emirates, but they're fighting the other countries around that are their allies. And you're like, what's going on here? Well, because those cultures are all still traditional. They're not fighting. They're trying to expunge the spirit is trying to get control of that society to influence them. And so there is demonic spirits that are kind of governing a lot of these things and higher up things, but the spirit is irrelevant. Honestly, a lot of times, I mean, it is there, but it's just what are you going to do about it? Like, the reality is, calling it out ain't going to do nothing. Saying what it is ain't going to do nothing. Recognizing its patterns ain't going to do nothing, because, calling people Jezebel ain't going to do nothing. Like, it's just, that spirit, the demonic spirits that are taking over, they're just demons, and it don't matter what they are. We have the authority of Christ, and how you fight them is with love. Like, that's it. So it's like the only way to fight them is to not be suspicious of one another and to love each other. Like, that's it. But people, unfortunately, start condemning one another and being suspicious of each other and thinking bad things about each other and all this stuff, and it creates this dichotomy, this space that's totally not, it's not of God. It's not of peace. It's not of unity. It's not of love. We need to fight. Oh, if you're going to try to fight anything demonic, you got to fight it with love. And that's all really you have to do, honestly.
Yeah. I wonder. I've always wondered. I always thought it peculiar that there's never been a story of a demon that actually had a redemption arc. That because you talk about the blue-haired people, some of them that never leave that grip, and you say, wow, okay, you're giving yourself over to something. You know that they're not enjoying anything. I don't know one liberal that is very, very invested in the activist lifestyle who's really living a joyful life. I have people in my life who are center left, and people that you and I have grown up with our whole lives that tend to vote a certain way, probably Democrat, but at the same time, you can still go out to a movie with them, and you can still, they're still functional. But the other people who really take this on, there's no joy there, and it reminds me of the predicament, or really the disposition of the average demon, which is you are on a perpetually losing team. Why do you even try? It's crazy to understand why that's even seductive in the first place, when you know that there is no winning, and that whatever you could gain from it on this plane in a very short human lifespan is all there's going to be, and then it's just eternity of losing. So why?
It's a good question to think about, but it's almost like, well, when somebody's on drugs, they've lost their family, they've lost all their friends, they lost their community, and they're just like suffering and hate themselves, and they hate their life, and they're just falling to pieces. And it's like, what do? They keep doing the drugs still, they keep doing it because they're just like, well, the ship's burning, might as well burn with it. I think that's some of the mentality of some of the demonic spirits. I think there's the ship's burning, oh well, like kind of whatever. But I think some of it's, I don't know. I think some of it, the Lord, it says in the book of Enoch, it actually talks about them, that they were 1/10 of them was left here on purpose, specifically for the purpose of drawing out the wickedness in men. So it was literally to show God that men are wicked. 1/10 of them was left. And that's a really interesting verse. Because it kind of alludes to the fact that they were going to be all bound, but they said, Lord, if you don't bind us all, how are we going to show you, Lord God, how are we going to show you that your humans are really in alignment with you? Like, we need to test their hearts is kind of the idea. So in some way they're doing it because God's allowing them to exist, to continue to do the things, to expose the humans. That's actually one of the reasons why they're still here.
They're almost the ghost army from Return of the King.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man, see, I like playing around with these thoughts here. I don't have a lot of time to play with this, and it's there's so many questions. One always leads to three more. And let me ask you this, because this might gets us a little bit more into current events, but from the past week, just this last week alone, we've had the Tyler Robinson pretrial. We have the sudden death of a senator. We have another senator whose life and health is shrouded in darkness, and who knows. But no matter what, and we were discussing this last night, no matter what story breaks, Bryan, it immediately fractures people into competing realities. Not just competing.
That's it. Yeah.
And nobody
demons want.
So nobody trusts institutions, and I understand why. Nobody trusts the media. Very well deserved distrust there. And increasingly, nobody trusts each other. So from a spiritual standpoint, what do you think is happening there before we get into individual stories?
Yeah, I mean, like, the demons want division. That's the ultimate goal. Okay. The ultimate goal of demon is to create division. It's not to get you to sin and so that you're a terrible person and you don't whatever. Their ultimate goal is for you to hate one another. That's it. It all because Jesus said what is the greatest thing that you do, right? It is love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. That's the greatest commandments. Okay. These two, he said, could be summed up all the others. So like, demons' greatest goal is to get you to hate God and to hate each other. That's their greatest goals. And so it's like, that's what demons kind of exposing thing is. So it's like, and so when you see these kind of things happening in the world, and it's creating these polarizations, people are hating the other people that are on the other side of the fence. You're giving into demons, bro. You're giving into the plot. You're giving into what they want. It doesn't matter what they don't care. Like there's this guy that goes around calling out Muslims all the time. Popular dude. And I just saw him the other day. And so like he goes around calling out Muslims, and he's acting like he's a Christian, but he's technically a Jew. And then he does all this crazy stuff, right? And the reality is, like, I had a conversation and was like, bro, you're literally being played by the devil. Like, you're acting like you're a Christian, but you're totally being played by the devil. You're literally spreading hate. You're literally causing people to be like, oh, we should hate the Muslims. They're moving in and taking over our country and blah, 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 and we need to do this and that. Bro, you are falling for the trap that the elite want you to do. They don't care whether it's black versus white, left versus right. They don't care about any of it. The demons want you to just hate each other, because if you hate each other, you lose. That's where the Spirit of God leaves you. He said, God says, anybody that says he loves the Lord but hates his brother, he is a liar, and the truth is not in him, the Bible says. That's what it says. So that's what they want. They want you to hate, because if you hate, doesn't matter. So whether Charlie Kirk is whatever, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter the situation, as long as there's division. If they create division and then people are like, oh, I'm not going to listen to your answers, because when the minute you shut somebody off because you think their opinion's different than you is when you stop growing. That's when you stop growing.
So what would be that unifying point to bring people together? Because at the end of the day, there still are a lot of very confusing things that we're being psyoped over in overt ways. The Charlie Kirk, Tyler Robinson trial, that's one thing. I mean, if everybody's able to just not hate each other over the differences of how they're seeing the whole thing, there is still a plot afoot that needs to be, their justice hopefully could be served, or at least perspective gained. I think a lot of people out there have kind of, put down their expectations about a satisfying level of justice being served on this earth while we're all around here. But at the same time, we get pelted with all of this injustice. And I think that's where a lot of this comes from, is at the base of it, everybody wants to see good done. They want the real killer and the real motives of Charlie Kirk to be exposed and dealt with, shit like that. So how do you, obviously cooler heads had to prevail, but I mean, you must have your own personal positions on things like that. I saw you reading through the ridiculous text message between Lance Twiggs and Tyler Robinson, supposedly. So, I mean, there's things like that you have to contend with, that, this is being thrown in our faces, and logic has to prevail at some point.
Yeah, I think the my personal perspective is that everybody needs to realize that pride is the worst thing you can deal with. And it's the thing that's trying to eat everybody. Okay, pride needs to be done away with, and hate and ridicule needs to be done away with, because when you're prideful, what you do is you essentially say, like, oh, you believe that? You're done. I'm not going to have a conversation with you, and you turn it away. So pride is the sin of the devil. It's the worst thing you could ever possibly fall to. And that's what our whole nation is falling into right now. It's that they write people off and go, oh, you're stupid. You don't know what you're talking about. And it's like, bro, that behavior is so evil and so toxic. That's why Satan fell from it. That's why it's the worst sin. That it opens you up to all the other sins. People grape other people because they think they deserve it, or they think that they're okay with it, or they think that they can get away with it. It's pride. It's literally pride. You kill some other guy because you think he's less than you. Bro, you think you can get away with it. You think it's pride. It all stems from pride. All sin everywhere all the time stems from pride. So like pride is the governing factor of sin. And so it is like the worst thing ever. And secondarily, the Jews. And I'm just going to be completely honest, Judaism is a very prideful religion. And it's not Jewish people, it's Judaism. It's the religion. That religion is so toxic and so evil, it perpetuates pride in the people's hearts, because it tells them that you're better than other people.
Well, since you've brought it up, and since we also started with witchcraft, and that's just how it all kicked off, I remember back, it was probably sometime earlier on this spring, and I was reading somebody's dissertation on the Talmud, and how basically I remember there was a few sections of it where they were analyzing it and saying that there was the part in it where they essentially say in the Talmud that essentially nothing supernatural in their religion has really worked since Jesus died for some reason, and of course there's still denials of divinity, and I'm just looking at what it's been published, and I thought it was an interesting thing because essentially what this thread was saying is that it didn't just happen for the Jews after the crucifixion, but pretty much every society that
all magic
that has surviving documents from the time, from the Romans to the Chinese, they mentioned that spiritual rituals either no longer worked or they were seriously weakened in some way since the crucifixion. What can you say about what can you go into that a little?
Oh, yeah. Because, okay, so after Jesus came, right? So all of the Nephilim killed themselves when Jesus died. And so there is like a lot of the things in the spiritual realm was cut off. And so a lot of the magic and stuff died, and all of the buildings and all. That's why we dug up like all these structures. They all collapsed. Like buildings collapsed, islands moved from their places. I mean, this is that's a whole nother rabbit hole to get into that whole subject. But but like when Jesus showed up, there was a prophecy, right? And it says that he will crush your head and you will bruise his heel, right? To the serpent seed. And so when Jesus showed up, the Nephilim that were existing, the majority of them they saw the Star of Bethlehem and they committed suicide. Did I talk about this before with you?
No.
Okay. So like there is okay, look at this. So watch, I'm going to type this in. Gentile. Can I share my screen?
Yeah, hold on. Let me get that. Let's see. Share. You should be able to. Hold on a second. No.
It says share. Send request here.
Boom. There you go. Allow.
All right,
God help us all.
No,
that's right. the chat room. Hold on a second. Where the hell are you? There we go.
Share. Boom. Okay. So like this is the gentile. Did I talk to you about the gentile?
No.
Okay. So gentile are actually the Gentile. All right. So the word Gentile does not come it comes from giantile. Okay. It comes from descendant of giants. And so the word Gentile does not mean non-Jew. It means non-human. Okay. And so Gentile, so the Arabic word for demon is jinn. You know that?
Yes.
Yeah, jinn. So it's jinn, and then it's genie, which is genie are demons that are supernatural beings, right? So we got genie, we got jinn, and then we've got gentile, and then we 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 got gentiloc, and then we got giantile, and then we got giant, and then we got giant, and then we got the ent, and then we've got enter, and then antler, and it goes on and on and on. Okay, so these words, or gigante, which is also gente, which is also people, which is also giant, or like even in Japanese, the word for people is jin. Okay, so all of these words, notice how they sound really similar, right? It's like, it's all giant, jin, genti, gente, gentile, gentu, like all of this are the same word because it's from the same people group. So what the Gentile were is right here. The Gentile or the Gentiloc were a Basque race of giants in Basque mythology. They would, the meaning gentile from the Latin gentilis, okay, was used to the pre-Christian civilization, the particular builder of the megalithic monuments, which the Basque mythological legends of the Marquis are involved to, okay? The Gentile were believed to have lived alongside the Basque people. They were hairy and so tall they could walk across the sea and throw rocks from one mountain to another. This stone throwing has led to several games and explanations of stone builders of large isolated rocks. The Basque game Poleta is ascribed to these stone throwers. The tradition lives on in Basque power games of stone throwing and stone lifting. Some attribute the Gentile to the defeat of the Roland of the Battle of Rossavax, where the Basques defeated the Frankish army by throwing rocks on them. Okay, the giants were believed to have created the Neolithic monuments such as the dolmen found in the Basque countryside. They were also said to have invented metallurgy and the saw and the first to grow wheat. Teaching humans how to farm. What did the Nephilim teach us again? Metallurgy, right? And the Nephilim also taught us how to grow and farm. That's pretty weird that there's a group of giants in Basque mythological legends called the Gentil or the Gentiloc that were teaching people metallurgy. These are the Nephilim, right? It says, however, they were unwilling to move into the valley from the mountains. With a certain unwillingness to progress, they disappeared into the earth under the dolmen in the valley of Nara, where a pretentious luminous cloud, perhaps a star, appeared, said to have heralded the birth of Christ and the end of the Gentile age. Do you see this?
Yes.
The other story said the Gentile threw themselves from mountains. Only Olenta Zero remained, a giant who appears at Christmas and is reproduced in straw dolls. Do you know what Olenta Zero means? Olenta means old. Zero means zero, means nothingness. What is old nothingness? Do you know what that means?
Satan?
Let me show you. Yeah. So old nothingness. Let's see. Old Nick is another name for old nothingness. Nick means to be cut off. Old Nick. Oh, wow. Old Nick is a traditional English Congo name for the devil or Satan. Old Nick, old nothingness. That's his name. Okay. So Olenta Zero is old nothingness, old Nick. So the original Santa Claus was, guess what? Satan. And that's why you get these pictures and depictions of Santa Claus. He was a Nephilim. Okay. And that's why you get this Krampus. So you know who this guy is, right?
Indeed.
Yeah. Krampus. Look, bro, this is Olenta Zero. This is old nothingness. That's who this is. Okay. Krampus would kidnap children. So he came, he was a Nephilim, a fallen angel who was like leftover remnant that didn't kill himself like Olenta Zero. And he came back to like try to plead with the Christians to not cut his head or crush his head or kill him. So he was Olenta Zero. That's Olenta Zero, old nothingness. He was a giant hairy beast that would kidnap children and put them in their basket, who became old Nick or old nothingness. So the word Nick is nothingness, by the way. And so you see this is Krampus. That's where these tales and these original stories come from. So he was a demonic, he was a Nephilim basically that just didn't want to kill himself. The rest of them killed themselves. You know, we have the same story though. This is in France and Spain. This story is between France and Spain. You know what else exists? Is Machu Picchu. So in Machu Picchu, can never spell that. This same story exists on another continent on the other side of the world. Do you know the native story of Machu Picchu? They said a star came down one day, shone really brightly, and the giants who they didn't build Machu Picchu, they said. They said they didn't build this. Let me see. Megaliths. So they said they didn't build it. It said giants that were homosexual, human-eating, man-eating homosexual giants built this place. Okay. And if you notice, the bottom rocks are massive and big. And then the top rocks, that's built by humans. And you'll notice this pattern like this. It's like the below rocks will be way, 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 way big, like these ones down here. And then the top rocks are humans. So it's like, but then you see these perfect like this. Again, this is not human, humans. See? And so like everywhere this is in the world, you'll see the giant rocks on the bottom and then the human rocks stacked on top. You'll see the big rocks are the Nephilim. And so these people said that they didn't build this place. They said they didn't. Look, the big rocks.
That was the big ones were the homosexual giants.
Yep, the homosexual, cannibalistic, deformed giants, and they all disappeared when a potentious luminous star showed up. Okay, a giant star. Now you got the same story in the story of the Gentile. Okay, when a pretentious luminous cloud appeared, perhaps a star appeared, said to have heralded the birth of Christ. Isn't that funny? You see two stories where the cloud appears and the Nephilim basically, it said they killed themselves. They committed suicide. Same thing with Machu Picchu. These guys all disappeared in the mountains and killed themselves. So in two different cultures, two different countries, two different areas across the world, they see a star that's related to the birth of Christ and they kill themselves. Isn't that fascinating?
So they and of course, this is how you're tying it back to the claim that since the crucifixion, magic was greatly diminished across the world. Because obviously it's not gone. Obviously it's not gone, but
well, it turned into faith in a lot of ways.
Okay.
But there is elements of it that have basically been wiped out. So like when Jesus showed up, the authority came with Christ and everything got erased. Like all of the spiritual stuff fell apart. So magic did get erased in a lot of ways. It evolved into something else. And so what it is now is Hollywood. So witchcraft and magic has evolved. Okay. It didn't just completely go away. It changed. It got reborn and rebranded into something else. Okay. It's not quite as magic as there were before. It's a different kind of magic. It's a faith-based magic.
It's more like hypnosis at this point.
Hypnosis is the purest form of it. And that's what it is. Yeah. And so hypnosis is a process related unto faith. So faith is the new form of magic. And so faith is what basically the magic is banks off of your faith. Just that's the same reason why the magic, that's why they put the ugly curses of the lungs on the cigarette packs. That's now what magic is, because it's getting you to have faith, to believe in it. So magic is evolved into a faith-based process that was basically the authority was given to you by Christ. And now magic is circumventing the Christian given authority, the Christ given authority. That's what it is now. It's a different type of manipulation. Whereas before there was these creatures that existed and a lot of demonic spiritual things that they could do and stuff that they had abilities over. And all that fell away when Christ showed up. So like Jesus showed up and all that stuff kind of fell off. And then there was Christianity spread to the entire world. The entire country of Asia, the Bible says, heard this message. That's a Bible verse, by the way. It says that so that all of Asia heard this message of Christ. The entire world heard the message of Christ within 40 years. And there's evidence for it all over the place. I could show you, like, people would be like, oh, but not everyone's heard the message of Christ. Yes, they have. They heard it within 40 years, bro. They were resurrecting people from the dead. You don't think that was popular, bro? You don't think that there was a bunch of dead people came to life and started preaching and talking to people? Bro, this was so powerful when Christ came. They've just expunged it. The Jews erased your history so you don't know about it. But if you look dig deep enough, you'll find all the evidence for it. Well, the Jews don't want people to know this, though.
Then that might be the basis for chapter 4. What is this, the third time you've been on? This is the third time.
Is it third or second? I don't remember.
No, this is the third. This is the third time. This might be that might be the preview of chapter 4 right there, Bryan. This was I mean, a really incredible night. I think I got to everything I wanted to do. You're a busy guy. You're all over the place. You're traveling. You have a very active Instagram and a YouTube. Where do you want people to follow you, and what's coming up for you next? Preview everything you got.
Yeah. So, I mean, Demon Erasers, you can find me at demonerasers.com. I just fixed my website. A bunch of demons took it down. And that was annoying, but, that's up, and I got links to all my stuff there. You can find things. I'm going to be putting out some books now, explaining some of the stuff in more detail so that people can have understanding of it. I've also got my documentary, which is Ancient Angels. It talks about the Nephilim, and that's pretty cool. So you can check that out. There's like, I don't know. I'm going on podcast. I'm on some big worldly podcasts coming up soon too, which is pretty cool. I don't know.
Worldly, like secular?
Yeah, secular podcasts. I've been going on secular podcasts. They've been like, people have been putting me on, like, I'm like, okay, I'll go talk to the secular people. Like, I'm sure you want me on your show.
Are they interested, or are they all like,
they're totally interested?
Okay. So it's not an ambush.
No, they're just like, hey, we just want to hear you talk about some of this stuff because it makes sense with a lot of the things we're thinking. I'm like, okay, cool, sweet. So I don't know, just pop it up wherever, man. I'm just letting the Lord lead me, and I'm just going with it.
Well, I'm happy that you came back to hang out with us. It's great to check up with you every few months. Yeah, and all the best to you, man. And yeah, you keep in touch. Let me know when something new happens, and we'll bring you back at the end of the summer, hopefully.
Sounds good, bro. Thanks for having me on, man.
All right, Bryan, demonerasers.com. It's always a learning experience. It is the fire hose personified. Okay, so we got a lot of cigarette smokers out there. This is the second time the cigarettes came up. You know, I know of some people, and I know some people personally who they smoked Marlboro Reds their entire lives. But their mindset, and I don't think they're lacking in faith. I actually think some people trust in God and God's creation, which is the body, and its ability to clear things out and keep things clean. Even though it's not a good thing to sit down and smoke a Marlboro Red, I don't see how it promotes your health, but perhaps it does something else for you. I don't know. They certainly don't seem like they're down with any, they're not burning for ritual purposes or anything like that. But what do you think? What do you think about that? You know, I smoke a lot less hookah every once in a while. Now it's like a couple of hookahs a year. It's a special occasion for me because I just there's obviously nothing health promoting about smoking a hookah, but at the same time, it's fun. And I certainly have not offered it up to anybody. I'll say a prayer on Saturday night, the 25th. That's when my cousins Sherry and Dave are coming on the show again. And I was planning on packing 2 hookahs. So God protect me. I will. I'll jump into that one a little bit more. But what else do you guys think about the magic? There's no doubt in my mind a lot of interesting conversation going on in those chat rooms. People for, people against, people confused, people tired. but that's why I bring Bryan on. He is he's a very, very high energy, awesome personality, and there you go. So I want to open up the lines in a second. 914-200-0269. 914-200-0269. And please, I beg of you, the chat room is great, but just remember, the vast majority of people who consume this show watch it the day after or listen to it the day after, the days after, on one podcast platform or another. If you're listening on podcast, please make sure you give this show a rating, especially on Spotify, because we're starting from scratch over there. I completely dropped the ball the last few months. We only have 40 ratings. I think they're all like 5.0 ratings, but still, compared to Apple's nearly 2,000, we got to rebuild that since I got removed twice in the last 9 months. So call in, because for those who are listening after the fact, they can't call in. So all of the varied things that you guys are talking about, all of your different opinions that are being expressed in the chat room, I'm sure somebody's thinking it, and they may want you to articulate their thoughts for them. So please, 914-200-0269. I'd love to hear from you, and that's what we will do. In the meantime, I will go to the Super Chats to see what people are saying there. Tomorrow is a big giveaway. 3 Super Chat raffle prizes. I'm pulling names, 3 names tomorrow night. 3 of them. So get them in tonight, get them in tomorrow. Send a Super Chat in, support the show. We sure as hell need it. We sure as hell do. We are turning over new leaves. And that's what we want. Okay, first one up is 705. 705, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, Frank, it's Pete. I'm stuck on gay giants.
Yes, the gay giants. Listen, every time I see, thank you, Bryan, because every time I see Machu Picchu now, all I'm going to think of is the gay Jolly Green Giant building those things. And
I'm thinking of like Burt Reynolds on a bearskin rug, sort of just hanging out in like outside your door, but he's like massive, and you're walking out, and it's just like, hey.
I'm sure a lot of people. I'm sure a lot of people thought the same thing. Anyway, so I'm glad that hit with you.
Oh my goodness, yeah. Are they gay? But here's the thing: are they gay giants or are they giant gays? Maybe they were just extremely fabulous.
I don't know how you can be that physically big and also homosexual and not be considered giant in your gayness as well. I mean, I think that's just the energy you bring. It just makes sense to me that the gayness would match the physical size.
That's the best one I've heard, though. Gay giants, all right, that's cool. But on a little more serious note, I believe it was Jonathan Pageau. He recently did a deep dive with an Orthodox priest on the extra biblical book of Adam and Eve, and it goes into the Syrian tradition of the Nephilim, which is a lot less Sepper, it's a lot less Blavatsky, and it's much more it's closer to like actual Christian tradition. So, and it's really cool to learn about the different like terms that are like cultural that were included in Genesis. So it's just good to cross-reference essentially. So maybe check that out.
Yeah, and I'm doing a lot more reading in between book club books now. There's I just got to update. I've got to update the database in my own mind over here. I just really realized that I just had so many books piling up, and we need new things to talk about and need new points of reference. And I have pretty good recall, but every once in a while you got to add a few new things to the index. So anything you want me to check out, especially if it's digital, that I can just go to a site and read an article or a blog, or if there is a documentary or presentation, feel free always just to email me and drop me some links. And if it's I'll
send you a link for that.
Okay.
And I'm sorry about the skies, man. I woke up and it was orange, apocalyptic orange this morning.
It's not your fault.
The worst headache. My buddy's kid is up north, like way close to Thunder Bay where it is. He woke up in the middle of the night. Mother left the windows open and he was coughing and puking, man. It's real bad up north, man.
No, it's bad.
Sorry about the struggles.
It's not your fault. I wonder who the hell's doing it. As you all know, and thank you, that's Pete from Canada. As you all know, our own Department of the Interior during the Obama administration published it. that the vast majority, I forget how much it was, if it was 90% plus, but it was a crazy amount, arson. And that's just talking about wildfires that happen in the United States, arson. Then, of course, the wildfires is a natural phenomenon. It's the way that the earth replenishes itself. It's how the earth is, you just kind of refertilize the earth. That's how the carbon over there actually helps germinate and seed new pine, new trees, all that stuff. So we know that there's a natural function here, but I mean, I wonder what the hell it is because it's so new. I'm not saying that forest fires in Canada are new, but what's going on where from Minnesota to all throughout New England, down into Pennsylvania and in New Jersey and everything over here throughout the Midwest. I mean, we're getting crop dusted every year for 3 years around the same time. We get about 1 to 2 weeks a year now where we get that strange pink and orange creamsicle disc in the sky that used to be our sun. Very strange. Thankfully we saw this coming, and we know the protocol now. Nobody went outside. I had to go outside to cook dinner, but Aurora's had a little bit of frogginess in her throat for the last week, and that's before this shit even showed up. The air quality has just been bad. So nobody went outside today. It's just air conditioners and the windows shut. It's crazy. I don't know what the hell it is, but I definitely don't blame you, Pete. All right. Tommy Jekyll says, dessert before supper? This is not going to be a good lesson for Luciana. What did I have before supper? What do you mean? I already had supper and no dessert. I'm missing the reference, but anyway, thank you, Tommy. Says the executive producer says dessert. Well, she's not getting any dairy, that's for sure, until this, the phlegm in her throat gets the hell out of town. Sean Joe, thank you. Tommy again says AOC as Senate Majority Leader, that would be worse in my opinion. Actually, no, because how much worse is she going to be than Chuck Schumer as long as she doesn't have the differentiating factor between those two assholes is she's a bit younger and she doesn't have cotton mouth. 989, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just wanting to say that when you have as many sacrifices towards the Moloch ritual as America does have on a daily, not even just a yearly basis, and also helps globally enact the Moloch ritual, that you are courting with some extremely dark forces that most people who are outside of the Catholic Church and some very hardcore Protestants have any idea of what they're dealing with at this point. So we're seeing some really crazy effects of things that are happening, but when you have this many blood sacrifices, we've got a lot of dissonance coming in right now on the spiritual side.
When you talk,
keep up the good work. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Wait, hold on. Don't leave just yet. When you say that there are sacrifices being made for Moloch, and that it's not maybe on the daily basis, but on the regular, what are you doing? Because obviously, a lot of people, as I said with Bryan, attribute the growing abortion culture since the 1970s as directly feeding that kind of daily sacrificial, that kind of demonic fuel. But what are you talking about? It sounds like you're talking about something a little bit more formal, an actual black mass, or what do you have in mind?
Well, let me say this. So when your country promotes sodomy, when it disregards and destroys the nuclear family, a traditional nuclear family, when it allows Jim and Tim to be called parents, when they promote abortion and contraception amongst all of their youth growing up, this is the black mass. That is the black mass. Those are the unholy sacraments that this Moloch ritual, right? That's what it is offering. We look at it as like this is just some ill effect. The massive amount of abortion, through the mail, abortion pills, morning after pill, all these things. we look at these as like the symptoms, but they are actually the sacramental nature of these dark arts. This is what we go to confession, they practice sodomy. You see what I'm saying? There's just this real, we're dealing with people who have no morals whatsoever. So they will go that extra mile and do those things, while many, like I said, unless you're very informed, a very devout Catholic, right? Usually a cradle Catholic or a very well-informed Protestant Christian, most people don't understand these things. They just think that this is, oh, well, this is terrible. But these are the actual offerings, the sodom, the in vitro fertilization, the abortion. All of these things are the actual sacraments that are being offered. We are living the Black Mass. That's what I'm saying.
Well, very, very strong point made, and I'm sure it's resonating with some. And thank you. I hope you. I don't think I've ever gotten a call from you before, but I hope that we hear more from you. Thank you so much.
All right. God bless. Thank you.
Take care. Okay. Well, what do you have to say about that? I mean, I had brought this up before too. I dropped the reference to the Jezebel spirit in during the conversation with Bryan, and it's because there's just such these a rash of incredible stories, and I know that media organizations are going to cherry pick things. Just a lot of it has to do with young women, especially young female teachers that just cannot keep their hands off of young kids, and some of them insanely young, still in diapers. And I wonder to myself, what the fuck is going on? What the hell is going on? And I understand, I just wonder, being driven, not being able to say no to something like that. What the hell? What is that? Who is that? It's something serious. It really is. Let's take a call from Mr. Ellis. Go ahead.
Oh, hey, Frank. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing well. Welcome to the show.
I guess my caller ID comes up. Well, hey, yeah, I just wanted to comment on the whole smoking thing. And I'm a few minutes behind, so hopefully someone hasn't already said this. But I don't. What I heard from Bryan wasn't that smoking in and of itself is demonic or opening you up to being possessed. I think it's just anything that you probably oughtn't be doing, right? Maybe it's like looking at online porn, or maybe it's gambling, or maybe it's watching like really really horrific horror movies, enjoying watching people get slashed and stuff. Just stuff that you kind of know you're not really supposed to be doing. I think that's kind of where you're maybe cracking the door, weakening your protection maybe. But I just thought I'd throw that in there. I don't smoke, and I try not to do most of those things, but we all have our weaknesses.
Well, I'll put it to you this way: when you talk about faith and whether or not when you start believing in something or not believing in something, giving something power or rooking something of its power, I feel like that works in a number of ways. And I mean, I know some very, very strong men of faith of varying denominations and churches that still smoke cigarettes, and their faith in Jesus is unshakable, and they give no power, or there's certainly giving no offerings to any other person other than Christ. So I don't know what they would say. Oh, I do know what they would say. Say, okay, well, I just have complete faith in God, and whatever my body provides me as far as years of enjoyment smoking is what I'm going to take. And it's not necessarily that I know I'm doing something bad for myself and I'm disobeying some commandment. So I don't know. I feel like that confidence and that spiritual armor can go one way or another. Just like some people are very confident, and I feel like some people just get sick. They have a lot less of the common cold stuff than other people do, and it's mainly because of mindset. I think that mindset brings you a long way. I think that you can fortify the body with the mind. And anytime you say to yourself that I think I'm doing something bad, or I shouldn't be doing this. Not because you feel like you're offending God, but maybe you just feel like, oh, I shouldn't be having a couple of, this is all empty calories. It's going to go right to my love handles or something like that. Or, the inner dialogue. I'm pretty self-critical. I don't think that all the criticisms that I lob at myself come from some dark spiritual entity. I really don't. I know we've had conversations with people like Bryan on this show who say, no, it's all coming from a spirit that wants you to be in some way, feel despair or something like that. I feel like that kind of confidence and that armor can go both ways or many ways. There are people right now out there who are enjoying a smoke. And yeah. Now I understand that the way the cigarettes are manufactured are horrendous as far as the ingredients goes. That's why I said, well, what about somebody who grows tobacco plants in their backyard? If they have enough space on their property where they grow their own stuff, and they know there's no bad stuff in it, and they know that it wasn't packaged or processed by a company who may or may not be doing things in a covert ritualistic way, so that everybody unsuspecting of those rituals walks into a CVS or a Piggly Wiggly or something like that, goes up to a cigarette vendor and takes out some Virginia Slims, walks away, sparks one, and is inadvertently burning an offering to their tobacco company of choice's favorite demon. What if you have the tobacco plants in your backyard? And you're just like, God, thank you for this wonderful creation. I've got nicotine. I've got a little something over here. From the master plant, the rustica, the nicotine rustica plant. Ain't nothing in there but just the plant. And that's an interesting experience. It's not a hallucinogen or anything like that. I wouldn't be able to handle that. But what are we talking? Maybe it's just the burning. Maybe it's just the burning Bryan feels. I remember the last time he was, I think this was the last time he was on, or two appearances ago, is when he straight up said that no, all rock and heavy metal music is demonic just because of the tone of the guitar. Because I said, well, there's a lot of wonderful Christian heavy metal bands that write amazingly triumphant music. Triumphant, faith-filled music. It's just they like the crunch of a guitar with just overdrive on and some gain and all that other stuff, and it's fast and it's heavy and it's energetic. No, the guitar tone alone opens up a pathway to the darkest of the dark. I can't get behind that. I can't get by. I don't know. Just the guitar tone. So, but there you have it. Okay, let's get to our super chats again. You guys call in whenever you want. I have some other things I want to do now. Lynn says, doesn't matter which way, just pick one and be done. Don't do YouTube. Why I answered here. Doesn't matter which way what. Blue NDN Now says, for the Coconut Fund and a chance at winning one of the raffle prizes tomorrow. Thank you so much. Sean Joe, Lynn RC, Foxy Lady. Tommy again says, I'd like to love the folks that give me the excruciating property tax bills they send to me, but that's a really hard sell. I can't love them either. I just got a $252 fine sent to me. I said, what the fuck is this now? Opened it up. New York State Taxation and Finance. What? I said, am I looking at this correctly? December 2023? What the hell is this? So I sent it to my accountant. I said, you understand, can you make some light of this? He goes, oh, well, you probably didn't pay enough estimated taxes that year. That means, along the way, if you're self-employed and you say, fuck you, I'm not paying any estimated taxes. I'll just pay whatever I owe at the end of the year in one lump sum, and I'll want to kill myself, but I'll pay it to you. And in the meantime, you can go fuck yourself. If you don't give, and this is for the federal government too, I just did not expect to see this from 2023. If you don't get, it's like you have a fine for not giving us something. You piece of shit. I don't love those people. I will. God's mercy probably is definitely extends far beyond I can. I'm just a human, man. Don't give me that task. I'm going to fail. Don't give me that task, especially when it comes to taxation. Please. Just full of rage. Meek Easy says, I'm here for the truth because I can handle it. Nathan W. says, New York right now looks like California back in August of 2020 from the wildfires. Pretty sure I lost 5 years from the smoke. It was awful, weird Mars simulation, though. I told Lauren that, especially toward when we were getting closer to dinner time. I said, it's like an alien planet out there. It's an alien sky. It's not a sky from Earth. And you look out the window and it's just dark. The sun has been effectively blotted out, aside from just a little tiny pale circle that you can make out, but it doesn't burn your eyes at all. What burns your eyes is the wafting smoke that passes by you, as if the forest fire were on the other side of the tree line. But it's coming from hundreds and hundreds of miles away. Rev says, are you taking Discord calls? Nah, not tonight. I mean, I guess I have to start doing that more often, because Discord is where I can start really having some specialty call lines in there. But the other line is open, 914-200-0269. Awakened Boomer says, I believe it's a matter of attitude. Call it faith if you wish, I believe. Now, I know the world and I'm in alignment. Things may not always be perfect. They are a challenge, but in the end, God and I win. And therefore, you enjoy yourself a cigarette, I guess. C. Lynn says daylight or standard time. Oh, okay. Well, we're going to get around to that in just, I forgot about that poll. Let me get to that right now. Let's see what people are saying. Be perfect. They are. Shut your mouth. Actually, that sounds pretty good. That sounds pretty good, actually. All right. 281 votes in. We got to get that up. Daylight savings time. What do you do if you had to make one permanent if you had to make if you had to make a choice between one or the other, what would you make permanent? Is it A, daylight savings time, B, standard time, or C, I am supremely gay? I am supremely gay is coming in third place right now with 21%. Daylight savings time is in second place, 29%, and standard time is 50%. And I have to be honest with you, I think I agree. I agree with the standard time. I agree with the standard time, people. Let me just remind you guys how this all works. And I got a couple of calculations down here too. Here's what the earliest winter sunsets would look like under permanent daylight savings time. Okay. New York. This is around December 21st. The earliest winter sunset would shift to around 4:30 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. Chicago, Illinois, from 4:20 p.m. to 5:20. Seattle, 4:20 to 5:20. Atlanta, 5:30 to 6:30. Of course, it all has to do with, latitude and longitude. The winter sunrise, this is the issue. Winter sunrise under permanent daylight savings time, which is what Congress just voted on, would mean that a place like Bismarck, North Dakota, at 9:30 a.m. is when the sun would rise. That's the absolute extreme. Pitch black until halfway through the morning. Detroit, Michigan, it wouldn't rise until 9:15 a.m. So that's over 2 months of the year where the sun rises after 9 o'clock in Detroit. Indianapolis, 9:06 a.m. Sunrise pushes past 9. Let me see here. And then Seattle, Washington, it'd be like 8:57 a.m. So obviously people are saying that, well, the kids Kids are going to be sitting at the bus stop in pitch dark in the middle of the cold winter and all that shit. And oh, who cares? They can get used to it. It's just a little bit of dark. But there's other professional considerations, for people working in the dark, whether, more hours of the morning than construction people. What does that mean for construction sites and safety concerns? If you're against this move, please let me know what you believe people are not considering with this. Now, if the country decided to go in the opposite route, standard time, permanent around the year, obviously the dynamic flips. Instead of sacrificing some daylight in the morning just to be able to have a little bit more daylight at the end of the day, I think this is where I would go if I had to choose one. Most definitely this is where I would go, because give me morning sunlight. The sun is going to go down earlier in the wintertime one way or another. I don't care about a 4:30 sunset in the middle of December and January. I don't care. It's cozy. What the hell am I going to do on a 20-degree day? Who cares if I have one more hour of sunlight? Who the hell cares? It is, on the other hand, you start the day off with so much darkness for so much longer. You run the risk of just making yourself so much more depressed for so much longer. It's bad enough to crawl our way out of the winter over here in places like the Northeast. Around March, you are going nuts. You're like, please give me some sign that it's going to be warm again one day and dry. So I think it would be this. So here's the most extreme adjustments with permanent standard time. So you'd have those midnight sunrises. The biggest shock to the system under permanent standard time would happen in June and July. Without daylight savings time to push the clock forward, the sun would rise an hour earlier than we are used to. If you live on the eastern edge, here's where it would be. Boston, Massachusetts would have a 4:07 a.m. 4:07 a.m. sunrise. That means that the American robin at 4 o'clock in the morning, Lauren is usually up around that time of year, around 4:30, 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, because those damn birds, but whatever, that's what they're going to do. New York, the earliest summer sunrise would be 4:24 a.m., broad daylight before 4:30 a.m. Broad daylight. Detroit, Michigan, even on the western edge zone there, the sun is fully up at 5 a.m. Seattle, Washington, 4:11 a.m. Extreme northern latitude means twilight starts creeping in around 3:30 a.m. So a massive amount of this of the sun here would be, they say, wasted on the population because they would still be asleep. So that's the question. That's the question here. How much of the summer nights are you going to lose? Which in the summertime, I guess the sooner it gets darker, the cooler it gets. I don't know. You lose some summer nights for extreme sunsets. When I read all this shit, I'm just like, you know what? Just keep it the way it is. I don't know. What do you think? What do you think? Now I'm starting to think, just keep it the way it is. But if I had to choose something, I guess I would start with an earlier morning, more morning time, because I'm not going to go to sleep just because the sun is down. I'm not going to go to sleep just because the sun is down in the summertime. That's not the way it works. So it's not like, oh damn it, my summer night is ruined. Now I can see the fireworks better. Fuck. So 914-200-0269. A lot of people were just calling in, but I had to read through this, so that's the way it goes. Call in again and let me know what the hell you think. Here's one. 720, you're on the air. What do you think?
I actually vote for standard time, partly because I'm kind of conservative or whatever, but also because, there was a movie, High Noon, right? And astronomically, noon is when the sun is at its highest. It should be standard time. And actually, like when they switched the time zones, that was during the George W. Bush administration. I'm like, man, it's too early for the kids. It's too dark for the kids in the morning, So I vote for standard time.
Well, between the two, I think it's definitely going to be standard time for me as well. And let's be honest, after a few years of getting it done, it's just going to be normal. Just going to be normal. And imagine a time when we didn't have clocks. We had some sundials, and we were actually paying attention to the position of the sun in the sky. And that is just how our lives were determined. So it's not like we couldn't do it again, and there would always be some kind of standardization of time. That's not going to go away. But as far as when we wake up, and Jay is probably, I would have to imagine that Jay Gulanello is a standard time kind of guy, only because he's so big on people living in lockstep with circadian rhythm and just rising with the sun, going to sleep when the sun disappears. I mean, not as it disappears, but still, I wonder what the rest of you guys would think. Thank you so much for the call.
Yeah, actually, one other thing I would say is, like, these days, I mean, it's the rigid times were when you go to the factory at 8 a.m. or something for first shift, and it's like, why can't we have clocks that just start waking you up a little bit earlier in the summertime? And I don't know, something like that. But anyway,
thankfully, you can set your clock to whatever you want now. That's the good thing. You can set your time to whatever you want. 817, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Yeah, Frank, this is Cloud9.
Hello.
I would say I'm more of a standard time kind of guy, but I really don't have any qualms about either. I honestly, it's not my hill to die on either way. But going back to earlier, you asked the question about, like, vices inherently, like smoking and, heavy metal, things like that. I have an interesting theory about vices. I think most people are going to be attached to one vice or another simply due to the fact on how they were raised and what either they neglected throughout their childhood or adulthood to basically now when they cross over from, like, their teens to young 20s to now late 20s, upper 30s, they get attached to something because they find their identity in something that they neglected throughout their adolescence or their childhood. So people who are addicted to smoking and addicted to alcohol probably had a sense of wanting to belong to a group, but they didn't find that early on in childhood or teenagehood. So they were more likely to be outcast or more likely to be the ones who didn't necessarily fit in. So they decided to go above and beyond to make up for that fact. So they had to counterbalance by drinking more and more in alcohol. And it's a plus. It's a benefit to actually like drinking and like smoking. But the main cause subconsciously was the fact that you were left out of a group. For guys and I guess girls as well, but more so guys who are addicted to porn, it's because they lacked in relationships or they lacked in affection early on. So they found attachment to this fake simulated love, which is through this artificial screen that you watch of two people having sex. And it's not even real. Like, most of the stuff that you see on, Pornhub is basically, it's all fake. It's all acting. That's not real sex. That's not real love. But a lot of guys who struggle with that typically fall into a Christian denomination, because when you grow up as someone who is, not just Christian, but just religious in general, you're taught that sex is an important part of the human experience. And so you need to preserve that. Well, as a result, what tends to happen is you see a lot of guys tend to identify in something that they lack. So the reason they're Christian isn't because they want to follow God, but rather it's because they don't want to go above and beyond in indulging in sex or indulging in alcohol or indulging in smoking. And for the record, I don't smoke, I don't drink, but it's not because I'm holier than thou, but rather it's because I don't see any value. See, that's the difference. When people talk about, well, I don't smoke, I don't drink, I don't watch porn, it's like, yeah, because you've never been tempted to actually do it. Like, if someone came to a virgin, if a really attractive girl came to a virgin, who claimed to not have sex because he was Christian, but he was never given the opportunity to, do you think at that moment he would bend? See, that's something that you have to ask yourself on a personal level, which is why I think most people try to identify themselves as something that they're not, but eventually they try to counterbalance that through their own childhood or adolescent, identity crisis. What are your thoughts?
No, I think that there's a lot there, a lot of meat on that bone. No doubt about it. There's so much you grow up with. There are things that you see there, and there's also there's varied internal rebellions that we are on as individuals. I know some people in my life who I've known since elementary school. They loathe smoking, and they've never had a cigarette in their lives. They never would. They find no. It's not even just that they find no value in it. It's just that they grew up in a household where everybody was chain smoking. That they had to put up with the fact that they stunk wherever they went, and there was social stigma there and all that other stuff, or they saw their parents get sick. So there's a whole different. There's a lot of reasons why people stay away from things. And we were talking about rebellion before, even with when Bryan was on, how if you were tell some of the blue-haired people don't do something, they're going to go and do it more, because there is almost like in that sense, even though they're harming themselves, or some people would abstain from something in rebellion. It's almost as if they're able to burn some element of a traumatic incident or a traumatic past in effigy.
Yeah.
So,
well, Frank, just to just put a neat little bow on it. I would say that in some sense, you have to identify what the person wants. Meaning that, like, if you can correctly identify what it is that the person wants to achieve, whether it's, a better physique or a better relationship, you appeal to that rather than saying you shouldn't do this because God would be angry if you did X, Y, Z. Even though both you and I would proclaim the Christian God, if someone is secular, or at least is on the fence about whether or not God is real, you're not going to be able to convince them. So I kind of go at it from more of the Greco-Roman style of Stoicism, just starting with, try to convince someone's best interest to overcome their vices. Their insatiable primal desires will be overcome once you can kind of appeal to the greater nature. So if someone is wanting to get to a place where it's like, well, you can't tell me what to do. It's like, okay, well, don't do it because I told you not to do it. Do it because it's going to help you in the long run have a better relationship. Stop watching porn because ultimately you're draining your life force. You're draining your brain. Don't drink so much in excess because you're ending up, killing your liver. If you smoke too much weed, or if you smoke too much tobacco, eventually what ends up happening is your lungs are going to have a toll, or maybe your brain is going to be completely reliant upon chain smoking, right? So that's the way I look at it. And in terms of trying to, I don't know if you want to say convince or persuade, but just to give someone a different opinion on the other side, that's the angle that I approach.
I really appreciate that, and I think that we're probably overdue for another talk on things like addiction. And thanks for the call, Cloud9, especially when it comes to that. And I've had conversations with people on this show, and I've been sent really incredible things about addiction that's not like physical biochemical addictions, but behavioral addictions like porn or just straight up sex addiction, and why people fail, especially why people fail who feel that shame and guilt and they want to rid themselves of it so badly, but why do they keep failing? And that's an interesting one. I've seen a couple of people from this audience who actually have written some really interesting blogs about it. A lot of it having to do with stress, boredom, loneliness, and of course, purpose. And when it comes to if you're a person of religious faith, what are you concentrating on? Are you trying to string together days and weeks from not doing one thing that you think was holding you back or another, because you found some purpose and you found some focus that kept you just not needing it, not wanting to medicate at all, because that's really what it all comes down to. It's almost like a soothing kind of a thing. And of course, these are all doorways. These are all doorways to other things. When you feel despair, or you feel like you let yourself down, frustration, or you have anything else in your life that kind of breaks down your armor, and all of a sudden you have a weak moment, and you just I don't know, you need a little bit of a mental vacation, and or one weak moment just turns into several others, and all of a sudden you tailspin. You can tailspin, and suddenly everything that you think. I'm not even talking about addiction. I'm just talking about like with me, when it comes to working, and if I'm trying to figure something out, and I'm hitting one brick wall or another, if you give yourself one moment sometimes to think something disparaging about yourself or the prospect of the work that you're doing, it can turn into something where you essentially just got to walk away from it all, because you almost lose total direction in where you were walking in life in general. Like, what the fuck am I doing? What is all this? Why am I doing this stuff? And I really do think that there are forces, unseen forces, that pull you away, that you have angels that are assigned to you, guardian angels, and you also have others. You also have others. You have the bleacher creatures who are telling you how much you suck. No doubt about it. There is that. There is that. And we got to talk about it. We really do. Now, chemical addiction is something totally different. That's something totally different when you're going through like physical withdrawals and all that shit. But this is something else. Grandma Grateful says, happy hot Wednesday, folks. Happy hot, smoky, burny Wednesday. Knitting on the, what was this? Knitting on the fly. Says, cheers, Frank. When I get a discount ordering my Keto Brainz, I try to pay it forward and send it to you. Thank you. When I get a discount ordering my, well, so you got a $20 discount, 20% off, whatever the hell it is. Well, I appreciate that. Just enjoy yourself. Enjoy yourself. We have 2 weeks now until Molly gives away that raffle, $2,500. Crazy shit. And like I said, just get the creamer, enjoy it, get the nattokinase. And I'm just trying to, like, 3 or 4 things that I do every day. Today, I definitely took my NAC and my bromelain. I do that every day around 10 a.m. Just, I started taking that during the COVID years. NAC, bromelain, just keeping things free and clear up in here. I like them because you can have it on an empty stomach, so I can just have that in a fasted state. So I appreciate you. Thank you so much, Knitting. And Grandma Grateful says, I will have 20 years clean and sober in August. I work as a recovery coach in addiction treatment now. Oh, I would love to hear from you one night. Whenever we crack open this topic, Grandma, please call in. Here's a guy I haven't heard from in a while, Don the Shredder, who, if he still is hanging out over there in Chicago, he's as smoky as we are. What's going on, man?
What's up, brother? How you doing?
Oh, what do you call me every 2.5 years now?
I know. I feel bad, dude. I'm sorry. I usually am getting home while you're on, and I'm watching the replays typically.
Wow, so you're still out there, though?
Oh yeah, I'm still here. We're still in the Chi-Town. Yeah.
Well, you have to make your presence known from time to time, because I'll tell you, the way the internet is right now, I feel like all of our old friends are miles and miles away, and then I get these random messages. No, we're still out here watching. We just can't chat as much. I was like, oh shit. All right, well that's great.
Yeah, my bad, dude. Yeah, how you been?
It's great to hear from you, man. It really is. You have to give me another. I know you're probably busy, but you got to make me another intro for this show. Your Twilight Zone intro is still a classic.
Yeah. I need to do a refresher.
Indeed. What's on your mind?
Oh, just I enjoy the Demon Eraser guys. I have been watching him for a minute. Have you had the JT Loves JC guy on before?
I have not had him on. No, I don't know who he is actually.
You know who that is? he's the guy you should ask him. He does a show with Demon Racer dude like on the regular. They get into the Tartaria stuff, because I know it's like a whole can of worms. But yeah, he's got a really cool channel too.
Oh, I love it. Maybe I can make it. I hesitate to say maybe I can have them both on, because I feel like you can't give attention to more than one person if you have Bryan on there.
Yeah,
unless you have a couple of
They're
hours.
both cool dudes. It was a good. I caught the second half of it, so I got to go back and listen to the rest.
Wonderful. Well, I mean, what do you think? Any well, I know you didn't see the whole thing, but any opinions you wanted to drop on us?
Well, I mean, yeah, man, I'm a Christian myself, of course. So I think it's my dad was a pastor, a Methodist pastor, and they a lot of in particular Protestant pastors, I feel, kind of skim over all the demonology entirely. And I think it is like people can get too into it. You know, there's a danger there too. So I understand that. But yeah, I've always I wasn't a Christian for a long time, my young adult, but then I got convinced of the bad stuff first, like the Pizzagate, all that. I'm like, oh, maybe there is something to it. And I think that, you know, then I was like, well, then there's got to be a good side to it too. And then I became a Christian for real. But yeah, just be careful out there.
Yeah, you must, and but it's good. It's a lot easier when you have good traveling companions in life, and that's what I feel like. I'm grateful I've been able to do to a certain degree, and what I aim to do in a much larger degree with this show in its growth over the last 15, 20 years, and for the next 20 years to come. I hope you stick with us, man.
Yeah, man, of course. You be well. And JT loves JC. Ask him about that guy.
Send me send me a direct message on Instagram.
They
or
do
something.
a show together like literally a couple times a week. Yeah.
Okay. Then I might have seen him incidentally.
Yeah, probably. Well, you take care, man.
You too, Don. Be well.
Bye.
All right, there you go. Okay, here's a couple other things before we end. First of all, I don't know if you've heard the news, but our friend Timothy Alberino, he finally did it. He recorded an episode with Joe Rogan, so that'll be happening soon. I feel like I only watch Joe Rogan episodes when somebody I know is on it. And I have a couple of people, I know a few people who have been on there now. And there's no way in hell that Jay Dyer is not ending up on Joe Rogan. There's no way in hell. After Jay was on with Tucker, there's no way in hell that he doesn't end up on Joe Rogan. Andrew Wilson was already on with Rogan. And Jay can go to depths unimaginable when it comes to geopolitics and the occult and everything else, as well as from his theology and philosophy and debating and all that stuff. So no doubt it's all happening. You gotta feel good for our friends, man. A lot of good people out there getting their due, and good for them, no doubt about it. When it comes to speaking of wildfire stories, though, this one I had to throw your way before we ended. Headline: Fort Wayne man cuts off penis, uses it to set mother's garage on fire. And I know what you're thinking. I know what you're asking right now, because I asked the same thing. How did a detached penis become flammable enough to be used for a tool of arson like this, in this way? Well, let's read, shall we? Over there in Fort Wayne, Indiana, prosecutors have charged a Fort Wayne man with arson after he was accused of cutting off his penis. Can you imagine if a flaming detached penis is what caused all of this in Canada? That the reason why we are choking out here in the United States across several regions is because someone cut off their dick and essentially made a Molotov cocktail with an actual cock. Christopher Pendon, 36, is due in Allen County Court on Monday for the May 6th fire in the detached garage on his mother's property. A fire investigator with the Fort Wayne Fire Department arrived at Pendon's home to investigate an incident with the detached garage. According to the probable cause affidavit, Pendon's mother and brother lived at the home. They informed investigators that the garage had no electricity and only a small gas can for the lawnmower. Pendon's brother also reported that Christopher Pendon was nowhere to be found. Sometime later, police found an injured Pendon Claiming he had been stabbed in downtown Fort Wayne. While investigating the stabbing, though, police connected Pendon to being a missing person from the garage fire. Medics rushed Pendon to a hospital for treatment, where the affidavit said he confessed to the police that he was dishonest about the stabbing and that he wanted to be truthful. Police say that Pendon admitted to the fire, telling officers he went out to his mother's garage around 2 a.m. and cut off his penis with a kitchen knife. From there, Pendon reportedly poured gasoline on his penis, set it on fire on the floor of the garage just inside the door, and after starting the fire, Pendon walked away from the property and let the fire burn. While at the scene of the fire, officials found a red gasoline container, four BIC lighters, Bic lighters, and a knife. These were all collected as evidence. What about the state of the penis? Must not have been a lot left there. Police also noted in the affidavit that the fire also damaged 2 additional properties and 2 vehicles. So just remember, your life might be bad, but all you got to do every once in a while is read the news. And you'll find the inspiration to just give it one more day. Just one more day. Don't give up. Don't give up. Walk the good walk. Fight the good fight. Of course, you're not going to fight the good fight if you are a absolute pussy like Justice Amy Coney Barrett, who was discussing all the threats that she's facing. All the threats that she's facing. Brianna Morello put this out there, and I'm gonna respond to this in kind elsewhere. I did a little something earlier on today that I'll put out. It's sad and shouldn't happen, says Brianna Morello. I saw Rich Barris tweet this out, but it shouldn't be an excuse to cave. Her rulings have been out of character. If these threats are an issue for her family, she should step down now. She essentially went before Congress yesterday with Elena Kagan and was asking Congress for a 10% raise in funding for the Supreme Court so they can surround themselves with more security. And then listen to this.
So I thought I would just share a little bit about how the threats have affected me and my family personally. They have required me to, my children, to think about and see things that children should not have to see or think about. One example is when threats to my life were particularly intense a few years ago around the time of the Dobbs leak. My security detail sent me home with a bulletproof vest, and I carried it into my house, put it into my bedroom, dropped it down on a table, turned around, and my 12-year-old son was standing in the doorway of my bedroom, and he wanted to know what it was and why I had it. And I didn't know how to respond because maybe I lack imagination, but I didn't expect that performing this service was going to put me in the position of explaining to my children what a bulletproof vest was and why I had to wear one.
You should have. You should have. You know, when Mel Gibson, and I'm not comparing Amy Coney Barrett to Jesus, or playing Jesus in a role. But when Mel Gibson called up Jim Caviezel to ask him if he wants to be Jesus in this film, and Jim Caviezel very famously accepted, Mel gave him a disclaimer. You have to understand that if you do this, you are going to be untouchable. Nobody's going to want to come near you. This could end your career. And he felt like there was just a higher purpose there. Now, if Amy Coney Barrett is as intelligent and as conscious as anybody has ever insinuated she is, I don't know how in her right mind she would ever misunderstand the gravity of the situation for accepting a nomination for this post at the Supreme Court. How you could not understand why and extrapolate the importance and the severity of the situation as to why people are so up in arms about the political balance of the court and because what the court means to American civic culture these days. Undue meaning, of course, undue significance, of course. So she just didn't know that this was like a big deal and that she would be brought in to handle disputes that are sometimes generations long and very, very charged, very emotionally charged. And that she didn't understand what? That the left are bloodthirsty freaks? I mean, come on now. So she essentially explained in so many words why her judgment cannot be trusted on big, important issues to the nation. That not only her fear, but her apparent ignorance to how dangerous a job this was going to be casts more than reasonable doubt on her decision-making when she's acting in an official capacity. So if you need, I mean, we know that somebody owns John Roberts. Somebody owns John Roberts, but the mob owns Amy Coney Barrett. We know why John Roberts would say that the 14th Amendment allows anybody to come here from Zimbabwe through Mexico and pop a baby out in San Diego somehow. And bingo bango, not only is that baby a full-blooded American citizen, but start the chain migration, my friends. We've seen enough of John Roberts over the years. Amy Coney Barrett, on the other hand, she's just a scared fucking little girl. Get her the hell out of there. But that even removing a judge at this point would be unthinkable to see. Crazy. Crazy to have heard this kind of thing admitted out there. Say, oh, okay, that's it. So we're living with less, and we're emboldening existential level of criminality, international crime when you think about the immigration aspect of it, because Amy Coney Barrett is trying to barter a couple of more sleepless nights away. Just incredible. So that's that. I have more with you guys. I have more for you guys tomorrow. Tomorrow night is Thursday night. I have a couple things I'd like to just have some fun with you. There'll be some news. There'll be some open lines. Let's see what everybody did with this poll over on Quite Frankly YouTube. Here it is. If you had to make one permanent move, what would it be with daylight savings time? Standard time won out with 50%. Daylight savings time at 29%, and much higher than I thought at 21%. I'm supremely gay. Now the crazy thing is, if it's daylight savings time and the supremely gay people teamed up, they could have tied. They could have tied standard time, and we could have made this a fight. So there you have it. But standard time wins, and I agree with it. If there's going to be anything, I agree with it. Okay, so here's what we're going to do on the flip side. Anthony, my brother Anthony, had a pretty big premiere today. He collaborated with Matt Heafy of Trivium, very big metal band. You guys don't, so I haven't watched it. He sent me the link to the actual song, but I haven't seen the actual music video yet. The song's pretty heavy, pretty awesome, and they're promoting it jointly. And Trivium is big. They've done great work over the last 21 years, and now Anthony's collaborating with them. That's really awesome. So I wanted to dip into that, see what everybody else is doing. I'll be reading the general chat. Maybe we'll do some joy scrolling depending on how much time is left over. Come and join us. I'm going to drop the chat, the link to the flip side in the chat, the several chat rooms, and you join us. And if you can't find that, just go to quitefrankly.tv and press play. Let me make sure I didn't miss anybody on the super chats over here. Let me make sure. Hold on a second. 1 second. For some reason, this is not loading. Flim Flam Man says, Frank, remember King Missile? Detachable penis. Detachable penis. Yeah, I remember that. I'll play it on the flip side. That came out when I was in like 6th grade. We all thought it was hilarious. That got a lot of radio play over here. K-Rock was playing it in New York. Detachable penis. What happened? He has a detachable penis and he found it at a tag sale somewhere. There it was, my penis. At a tag, it was half off or something like that. And he's talking like all monotone. It's all coming back to me. Odd Lighting says, you get my Prime because you always give back Prime prizes. Well, thank you so much, Odd Lighting. That's over on Twitch. I really want to see Twitch pop off. Lisa Gray, thank you for the tip. Zoso Dude says, that was one wild ride for sure, but might warrant a YouTube delete or editing. In it to win it. You really think it needs to be deleted or edited out? I don't know, man. We'll let it rock for at least a week. Come on. What am I supposed to do? It's not me making claims. How do I go? Like, I don't know. I guess it's not a good thing to go on somebody's podcast and say, if I could do one thing, I would make Judaism go away. Well, how do you make Judaism go away? I'd never say anything like that because it's not practical. This is what I have to live with. Shotzi says, a little Wednesday tip. And Jay Britt says, great conversation tonight, Frank. And Wade says, Frank, you're the best. Only show I watch religiously every morning at 5 a.m. You're the man. Never stop. Well, it might be light time. It might be very, very light in the daytime at 5 a.m. You, me, and the Robins. Thank you, Wade. Mark the Carnivore says, got to be in it to win it. Split this with Willie to fund his anger management classes. Love to Frank, the family, and all the Franklies. You guys have been wonderful. That's all for tonight. I'll see you tomorrow. Pilled people, I'll be getting into your super chats a little bit in just a second. And have a good one.
I'll catch you on the flip side.
Thank you, everybody. If you love this show, sponsor the show. Become a member of the Culture Club. We are watching Idiocracy on Friday. We're in the middle of reading a book right now. We have 2 great film club watch parties that are put aside for August and the whole year. $5 a month is all it takes. Go to quitefrankly.tv/sponsor and check out all your options. I'd love to have you on Patreon. I have a great announcement to make for you tomorrow. And thank you, guys. I love this show. I love you all. And keep on keeping on.
I want you to know that I've smoked pot.